Welcome to Milcho Manchevski, and we are discussing his films today. Willow, that has been shown at Raindance 2020. As programmers, we were very intrigued by the idea that a man could master women issues with such a deep and profound understanding. So my question now is, why make a film about motherhood? Why you and why motherhood?
It's an important subject. It's something that I was interested in. And I never thought about it as a male or female issue. You know, it's an issue, it's a human issue. And I believe that the artist needs to look at people without divisions. I don't know whether it's controversial or not to look at it that way, but the artist is first and foremost, in my opinion, a humanist, somebody who should love and understand people, and especially his or her characters. And if you approach it this way, if you approach it with thirst to understand and a talent to understand, then entire worlds open up in front of you. Trying to think that only you should work based on your limited physical experience would disqualify us from doing a lot of good work, a lot of good art. Like only men do films about men and women about women, and I don't know, Macedonians about Macedonia. It's not whether you physically had the experience, it's whether you understand it, whether you care for it. Otherwise, we end up with furthering divisions, saying, oh, no, you're a man, you can only do action films. And it's that general understanding and empathy and affection for your characters and for people in general that's important. So, this is a film about people who happen to be female people. That's all.
And, this is a subject that for us is very important because we have a female gaze. Your film has been put in the female gaze strand. But for us as programmers, having a female gaze strand is very controversial. We don't like the idea of quotas. And what are you saying here now? It's exactly why. It's because it's not true that only women can speak about women issues, and it's not true that men can speak about men issues. It's like it's gender doesn't exist as a label, isn't it? So we found this, and I really wanted to open up the questions with this very question because it's so important for us that an artist, as you are, is recognized for his work and not for his gender. Who cares?
Absolutely.
If you have an understanding of the issue.
It's the work that matters. If a film,
yes,
poem, a book, whatever, a painting addresses the issues in a profound way, that's all that matters. And I'm less interested in how that person came to that place. Otherwise, once we start with physical division, you would say like, Bergman shouldn't be making films about women, and Catherine Bigelow shouldn't be making films about men, which only makes all of us poorer.
Yes.
So that's and tell you the truth, I never even thought about all of this until the film was finished, and until it went out into the world and the feedback started coming back, which has fortunately been great. But yeah, and I'm glad I can contribute to this debate.
Absolutely. And but then said this, what is your connection with the subject matter? How do you why did you get interested in it? Why motherhood? Is this something that you have a personal connect? How did the idea come about?
I don't know. The ideas usually find me. I don't go out looking for them. And then I'm glad to be the vessel for the idea. And usually, there's no message, no agenda when I start working. I start with a plot, and I start with the feeling, whether it's going to be something sad or something playful or something scary. And then you just do a lot of work, and a lot of it is playing with the material. And then if it sticks, if it keeps carrying you through the weeks and the months, then you decide, like, okay, this is what I want to spend the next few years of my life with. So it wasn't something where I thought, oh, this is an important subject, I need to address it. Even though I know that if we put it in so many words, it would probably be easier, but that's not the case. And it's not the first time that, now that the film is finished, now that we're talking about it, I go back to things and I see that, I had just 10 years ago, I had a film called Mothers. And then in two of my previous films, the main characters got pregnant. So obviously, this is something that I keep coming back to, but not in a conscious way.
No. And in this film has an episodic structure. We talked about your use of the episodic structure in our Instagram live conversation. But now I'd like to ask you another question, because you have these three different characters, and motherhood is somehow the linking theme. But I was wondering, in your mind, how are these three characters related? How did you start with one and then the other one came about? How do you visualize them together?
Well, it's a bit of a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
And the different colors are not only narrative strands, but also emotional aspects of how you emotionally relate to the story. There's say a tragic moment here which makes me feel a certain way. How does that reflect on a tragic moment in the second story, or how does it foreshadow something that's going to happen in the third story? And also, how does it contrast things? So on one hand, the three characters have similar similar drive, similar thing they're striving for. It's all about being a mother.
Mm.
But then their differences and their contrasting points between the first and the second and the third. They're also echoes. So not everything in the film is neat. I didn't want to have something where things neatly click together, but rather a painting where the feeling you walk out with is hopefully powerful. But part of the reason why it's so powerful is because things are left hanging. There's trends. There's white canvas that we need to fill, where we need to fill in the blanks. And all of that hopefully invites you to a playground, to something that's playful, where it's like a Matisse painting or a Rauschenberg painting, where not everything is perfect, probably on purpose, but then the impression at the end, the feeling you walk away with is powerful. there were there were like the first story feels like a universe unto itself, and then the second story is another universe, and then when the third story begins, you realize that in terms of the chronology, it's directly related to the second story.
Yes.
It starts halfway through the second story. It covers things from a different aspect. You even see the same scene seen from two different
Yes.
points of view,
Point of views.
and then
Yes.
it carries over. It lasts in film time. It lasts longer than the second story. It takes us to a different conclusion. And as that's happening, you're constantly sort of bouncing off of the feelings and the narrative from the first story. So it's this Rubik's cube, which is hopefully fun, but also it talks about important issues.
And I'd say that there is an asymmetry in a way that you have. It's true what you say when you say that there are things hanging there that makes you also dream on and
Yeah,
try to understand. You give clues and then you don't give answers, and I think that's also the charm of the film, because you're taken into it and your mind starts wondering about
absolutely. Yeah.
what's happening there. So obviously you start with the Middle Age and then you go on to modern times. What is the appeal of a Middle Age story? Why starting with a Middle Age story? To me, that was, Middle Age is really where there's a sense of magic and myth that works well with the story. But I don't know, what was it to you? Why choosing the Middle Age and not the 18th century, or I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's that mythical aspect
Yeah,
of the Middle Age, of
yeah,
the medieval story, of the medieval period, that's attractive. And you can explore. I love exploring. I love doing research. I love doing research almost as much as I love directing. And you discover things that you never expected could be true, things that are more interesting than anything you could come up with in terms of fiction. So there was that bonus aspect. It's like, oh goody, I get to research Macedonia in the medieval time
mm,
up to the 16th, 17th century. So that's one thing. Another thing is the mythical aspect. It gives you a different taste, different structure, and that can work again in terms of contrast, in terms of complexity. It can work off the the contemporary story. So you're constantly contrasting them and saying, so the mythical aspect becomes more mythical. The, let's call it, realistic contemporary taste becomes even stronger, because you still have the taste of this myth in your mouth from the first story. And finally, it also gives you an opportunity to see how people, how humanity, how society, how our feelings and the way we strive to achieve what we want to achieve in life, how those things have changed in, say, the last 500 years, and at the same time, how they have remained the same. So it's those three aspects that pushed me into trying to work with the medieval part of the story and the contemporary part of the story. It just makes it more, um, gives you more options as an artist. It's like, I keep coming back to Rauschenberg and collages, but it's like when Rauschenberg takes a photograph and puts it in his painting, but just part of it. It's not neither good nor bad. It's what he does with everything else that makes it good.
Right. Yeah. And so in this sense, you break up your film somehow. We say that it's asymmetric, and um, but at the same time, there's a lot of unity in it. And I found that you achieved unity not only because obviously the subject matter ties the three parts together, but also because there's refrains and tokens that come back, as you were mentioning, from the Middle Age to modern times. So I like the some of the rituals, or the stone, for example, that it's in the middle, the sacred stone in the Middle Age, but also in the modern time story. So and also I think what is very intriguing is the music. So you've worked a lot, and I don't know if this part of your research, with folk music, and that's a leitmotif in
Yeah,
the film. Can you tell us a bit more about the work that's behind that?
yeah, of course. I mean, that was part of the concept. Part of the idea was to take uh, folk motifs, something that would probably be, um, the music that maybe people listened to or created in that medieval period where the first story takes place, and then use it as a starting point. So not do just naked copy paste, but develop it. And the composer Kirill Tchaikovsky, and also the composer who did the additional music, Igor Vasilev, they spent a lot of time on looking into traditional music from the area, and historically what would have been what we think was the music that people played way back. And not only for this film, I mean, they've done this type of research in their work before as well. So this was something where they came with rich experience. And then it was another way of connecting the three
Yeah.
segments
Yeah.
and creating the contrast between the three segments. So the music and the images and a lot of the little echoes and leitmotifs, like you mentioned, the stone and the actual that tradition of tying a string,
Yes.
white string and red string around the rock, which, by the way, is something that people still do once a year. Couples who want to have children but are having problems conceiving go to this place. It's a rock in the middle of a field, and do this, basically a pagan ritual, sometimes even accompanied with sacrificing a lamb or a chicken. And then, if they actually conceive in the meantime, by the same date next year, they come back with with the baby, with the child. So it's an extraordinary sight.
So way beyond science,
Yeah,
there's a
way
whole
beyond.
world. Yes. Yeah.
So here we are in the 21st century. We're talking about artificial insemination and in vitro and you know genetics and everything, and then this. So sometimes, things are that's one thing I keep coming back to in all of my work, that things are not as neat as we're taught. Things are not as divided. Ideas and feelings and even centuries overlap and run in parallel so often.
The other thing that is very interesting, I thought, is the title of the film. So Willow is quite an impactful title for the theme of the film. and I think it also puts it's another element of putting all the pieces together, because it's the idea of a tree that bends but doesn't break.
Exactly.
Is this the meaning that you wanted to give to this word in
Yeah.
relation to the film?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a it's a unique tree because the branches don't go up, they go down, but they don't break, and they sort of go back and connect to the root again, creating a circle of life. Also, it's a weeping willow in English. In Macedonian, it's similar. It's supposed to be sad, but it's not necessarily sad. It's actually vital. It's strong. It survives, and it survives with flying colors in a way. So that was the reason. Of course, another reason was that um, willow, the tree, as well as the word, um, it's something that a lot of different cultures have in their tradition, and they both cherish it and assign um, magical powers to it, like the old Slavic tradition and mythology has it, but not only that, a lot of other cultures do. So that was an interesting aspect that I thought was universal and would be interesting to address in the title.
And again, a way to connect the dots, which
Yes,
I found very, very interesting. Yeah.
and for example, big things happen under the willow tree in the first story, and then in the second story, again, it's present. It's here where the main characters live, and they even buy a little willow tree and
Yeah.
plant it, and that's supposed to them. It's supposed to be a symbol of what they hope is going to happen. And then in the third story, it's only present in a needlepoint, framed in a tacky frame, hanging on the wall towards the end. So the
Oh,
the, the echoes are there, but they're, as you said, asymmetrical.
they're asymmetrical, yes. Um, the so the talents, I mean the cast is also quite impressive, and I was wondering, how did you cast for the roles? How did you find the right women for the characters? What were you looking for in the actors that made the film?
Well, I worked again with a casting director I'd worked with before, Milcho Manchevski, and she's just fantastic. I mean, she knows people. She knows how to work with people. She knows the actors. Basically, our process is always the same. We go very wide. We look at everybody who is the right age for the part. The looks are not really that important. I primarily look for the actor's craft. How good are the actors who will play that part? And also the energy they project. The energy needs to be sort of close to the energy of that particular character. And we do 6, 7 rounds of auditions of casting calls where people come in and read. In the first round, they read a scene from the classics. It's either Lady Macbeth or something by Tennessee Williams or Sam Shepard. And then, so that gives us a sense of how they attack a scene and a character. And we get a sense of the craft. And after that, the second round and the third round are already scenes from the film. And we try to see whether, again, I'm really interested in the craft and how flexible the actor is, how uh, deep their understanding of a character goes, how well they understand the character, um, they don't have to really articulate it, but they need to translate it into what the character does. And then starting usually with the third round, I'm there with the actors. And then we start looking into how well they respond to direction. And I mean, this is probably the favorite part of the process for me, working with actors. I, I really love actors, and I feel very grateful to the fact that they've offered themselves to me as a director. So you're guiding them through the process. And in film, you can't make actors worse if you don't know what you're doing. So I appreciate their trust in me, and that's why in return I try to be very supportive and try to create the best possible environment for them. And then I feel very paternal towards the actors, even when they're much older than I am. And it's a fun part. So then once we decide who is right for the parts, then we pair the actors and see how their energy goes with their on-screen partner. And then eventually, once that is done, we go into rehearsal. So by now, we've done a little bit of rehearsing by the sheer fact of doing a few rounds of casting.
Mm-hmm.
And the rehearsal itself usually takes about 3 weeks for a feature film, where we sit down and go scene by scene. Um, if there is a need to change things or to improvise, we do it
Yeah.
then. We don't do it on the set because I agree with what Bergman said. He said that rehearsal is creation and filming is recreation. So
Mm.
you create it there without the pressure of um, having to rush because you're on the set and every minute is it costs so much money and the sun is going down and there are technical issues, but you're relaxed. You're with the actors and nobody else, casting director and possibly the continuity person, and you get it done. And once you have it done, you ask your actors to put it in a jar and close it and save it for the actual shoot a month later.
That's great. Um, yeah, I was thinking that the actors somehow embody your creation. I mean, I think for a filmmaker, seeing the actor is like seeing with your own eyes what's been in your mind until then. So it must be quite an intense process as well.
It is, and it's also, but don't forget that every actor brings something unique to the part, to the character, and if they end up changing the part, changing the character to to fit their personality and their understanding, provided they make the character better and more interesting, and provided they make him or her fit the story better, I'm fine with it. Take it and run. That's great, and I'm
Their input.
really happy, and I feel blessed that I have worked with these actors, with all of them on this film, with Sarah and Natalia and Kamka and Pepi. They're just incredibly talented, and they were good. It was good. It was great, and Nicola and everybody.
They're amazing. They're amazing. But something else is amazing. It's the photography. I still remember one of the first scenes when you have these very light wheat dotted with blue flowers, and it's poetry really. And I was wondering, so you're a DOP, Thomas Dobosh. How was it working with him?
He's great. I mean, he's really talented. Very quiet. He is with the image. It's both very classical and a very modern
Yeah.
what he creates, and that's precisely what I thought this film needed. And so, I mean, we did some research together, and then we spent a lot of time on locations, looking at the right angle, the right time to shoot it, everything else that can be created in front of the camera, and then complete it in post production, which we did in Belgium. But it was, yeah, I was really happy with that. By the way, the scenes with the wheat fields, the harvest, we did, um, I'd say about 2 months before we started principal photography. So we shot only that scene because we had to catch the wheat
The weeds,
before
yes.
before it's gone. Uh,
It's really impressive. It's mesmerizing, how the Brits would say. It's
yeah.
really wow. It's beautiful, very beautiful. So my last question before I let you go, what is your next project? Where can we see you next?
Um, well, there are two projects. One is film, one is not film. I just finished, I just had an opening of a photo exhibition and a book of photographs called There. It was at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Macedonia with Antolog as the book publisher. And it's a collection of 88 photographs taken over a period of 10 years, of the last 10 years. It's street photography in the vein of Cartier-Bresson and Robert Frank and Gary Winogrand and Alex Webb. Um, and then the next film I'm working on, it's called Kaimak, and it's a black comedy, and it's about the haves and the have-nots in Macedonia today, but it's also a universal story. It's a story that challenges taboos. It deals with family and social and sexual taboos. And again, the executive producer, as on Willow, is Ian Pryor. The producer is Yannick Yortushev. We will have some of the same team, same people who worked on Willow, and even though thematically and in terms of the feel, it's very different from Willow. It's also a bit of a continuation of the things we're exploring. Some of the humor that you see in Willow here and there is amplified in Kaimak. And so we're hoping to shoot sometime early next year and then go on from there.
Okay, we'll keep you under our radar, and hopefully we'll see you again at Raindance soon. But Milcho, thank you so much for being here today, for sparing the time, and every best of luck with your future projects. And thank you for creating and directing Willow, because it's such a gem.
Thank you.
I
Thank you
wish
so
you
much
every
for
luck.
having me. Thanks.